Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back. I'm Aishwarya Sophia. I am an Akashic channel and an energy healer, and I'm here to make your spiritual journey a little bit easier. Let's talk about Lyra. Lyra is our cosmic origin story. Every one of us here has either had an incarnation on Lyra or we are the descendants of those who had incarnations on Lyra. Today, we're going to talk about who we were, where all of this started, and what exactly happened in the Lyran Wars. I'm going to finish up by offering you all a cellular memory clearing of any trauma that we may still have within ourselves from the Lyran Wars. Lyra is the constellation that we can find in our northern sky. It doesn't matter if you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. You can find Lyra simply by looking up at the northern sky. Try to spot Vega, which is the brightest star in the Lyran constellation. This is a bluish white star. And once you spot that, try and find a diamond or a parallelogram that's just underneath Vega, and there you have Lyra. Lyra has 6 main stars, of which Vega, Sheliak, and Sulafat are the most prominent. Now today, we're going to go back to the dawn of time. We're going to go back to where all of this started. So get comfortable and enjoy the ride. So let's go back to the point of singularity. Before there was any separation, there was one source. Now, we may refer to source by many different terms. Some of us may call it God, some of us may call it the universe. Whatever it is, we're all referring to that singular point of inception of everything, the source of all things. And I'm going to refer to that as source. So when Source decided to explore all aspects of itself to be able to learn and grow, it decided to experience duality. Since all it had ever known was that unity consciousness, it decided to split up into different fragments, to experience duality, to experience what it's like to be separate so that it can learn and grow. And so it began. Fragments of light called souls started to split from Source, and these souls, the first brave ones that decided to split from Source, decided to incarnate on Lyra. Lyra was perfect. It was a utopian paradise. The atmosphere was perfect for life, the weather was just right, and the soil was incredibly fertile. Music, the arts, and agriculture were the main occupations on Lyra. Just imagine a planet full of artists, musicians, and farmers. No wonder it was a utopian paradise. Since Lyrans were amongst the first souls to split from Source, Lyrans are among the most ancient and the wisest of souls. Lyrans were lion hybrids. So think of a white lion head with a human body. They were, from what I have channeled from the Akashic fields, about 9 feet tall, and they were extremely skilled at spirituality, at telekinesis, at telepathy, and anything that had to do with mastering oneself. The Lyrans were absolute experts at it. Lyrans also had very strong familial bonds, and their culture was very centered around family and community. They enjoyed cultivating beauty and peace all around them, and they truly enjoyed nature, their connection with Source, and above all, music and the arts. Lyrans lived in peace for many thousands of years. And during these many thousands of years is when they had the chance to really master their spiritual abilities. So things like levitation, telekinesis, telepathy were very, very commonplace for Lyrans because A, they remembered their connection with Source and the divine and with themselves and each other, and B, they were very aware of their spiritual gifts already. So it was much easier for them to master these gifts over these years. As time went by, Lyrans evolved in many different ways, including culturally, where they started to develop very deep and intricate social norms. They also realized that they could cultivate the natural resources which were very abundant on Lyra, and they became experts at cultivating natural resources and living in harmony with nature. Since there was no threat to their existence, they didn't really have a military presence or a defense force at all. And they were very much so still in unity consciousness. So the concept of having to defend themselves against another wasn't really at all part of their consciousness. Many thousands of years after the inception of life on Lyra is when the reptilians come into the picture. Let's call them the reps for short. No one really knows where the reps came from, but what we do know is that they seem to have been exiled from another dimensional reality or galaxy, and they ended up in Draco. Draco is the constellation that's right next to Lyra, and they're quite close to each other. So when the reps came to Draco, they noticed Lyra. Now, the reps are the opposite of Lyrans in that they're a warring race whose only intent is to conquer other races and really pillage their planets for natural resources before completely destroying them. So naturally, when the reps saw how abundant Lyra was in natural resources and how peace-loving they were, they became an obvious target. So when the reps started to make contact with the Lyrans, they did not reveal their true intention right away. They first became friendly with the Lyrans. They understood their social norms and their culture so they can really learn to strike where it hurts. And they also understood or learned from the Lyrans how to cultivate their natural resources, where they're located, and all of those things. So once they had enough of this information, that's when they decided to attack Lyra. Now, when I was channeling this information from the Akashic records, I was shown that they attacked Lyra like a thief in the night. The Lyrans had no clue that this was coming, and one fine day, they were woken up in the middle of the night with hellfire. The reps attacked the Lyrans with such sophisticated warcraft that the peace-loving Lyrans did not stand a chance. Many millions of Lyrans perished in these Lyran Wars, and they were helpless against the sophisticated arms and ammunitions and military technology that the reptilians possessed. From my understanding, Vega, which was another advanced civilization in the constellation of Lyra, which was Lyra's sister civilization, was slightly more technologically advanced than Lyra. They were nowhere close to the reps in their military might, but they did have spacecrafts and such that really helped them save some of the Lyrans. The Lyran Wars were so tragic because all the Lyrans who loved and lived and thrived on Lyra were destroyed for no fault of theirs. The reps did not stop here. They were so hungry for Lyra's natural resources that they went as far as to destroy the planet Lyra. This is why we don't see the planet Lyra in the Lyran constellation as it stands today. This was deeply traumatic to Lyran souls, especially those that survived. Lyrans who perished in the Lyran Wars went on to incarnate in star systems such as Pleiades and Sirius. Now, all of us who have incarnated on Earth today are either souls that had an incarnation on Lyra, or we are the descendants of souls that started their journey on Lyra. This is why most of us carry a cellular charge or a cellular memory of these wars in our DNA. And I remember the first time I heard about the Lyran Wars, I didn't know anything about this topic whatsoever. It really interested me, so I was watching. And as soon as I heard this, something sparked a soul realization, a soul memory, right? And I remembered being there. I remembered seeing my family being killed. I remembered my home planet being destroyed. And I just really remembered that feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. And I was sobbing on my couch for hours trying to shake this feeling of what I had just remembered. The best way to know if you're a Lyran starseed and if you indeed had an incarnation on Lyra is just take a minute to check in with yourself. Does what I'm saying resonate with you? Does it feel like a memory from a distant past? Does it feel like you were there when this happened? Does it feel like this may have happened to your ancestors? That's the easiest way to know if you are a Lyran starseed. Another sign is if you're always told that you're an old soul, or maybe you feel like you're wiser than your years. Now that doesn't happen to everyone. If you're born with ancient wisdom and knowledge that comes to you very easily, or if you're always the wisest in your social sphere regardless of your age, that's a great indication that you may be a Lyran starseed. Another sign is if you have this unshakable faith and this unshakable knowing that you are one with the divine. Because Lyrans were amongst the first souls that fragmented from source and incarnated as separate from source, they had a complete awareness of their connection with source. So if you were born with that knowing of your deep connection with source, then chances are you're a Lyran starseed. Another way to know is if you are a brave and fearless leader who is compassionate and empathetic. Now, we've all seen those leaders who are servant leaders, who lead by example, who are always fair, leaders who would rather put in the work themselves than make their employees work overtime. That's a true Lyran leader. Another way to identify if you're a Lyran starseed is if you really long for home. If you have moved around a lot as a child or even as an adult, your soul is just replaying that longing for home, and it's going from place to place looking for a home. Now, because Lyrans were lion hybrids, this means that they had a lot of characteristics of the positives of the lion archetype. So they were brave and fearless leaders, and they exude a royal aura. So if you feel like, regardless of your social status, you've always felt like royalty, and this is not in the ego sense, it's in the spiritual sense. If you have felt like you have to serve others, you have to be a servant leader, you are always put in charge of other people, and you feel like you're the one that people look to when they want wise counsel or fair leadership, that's a good sign that you could be a Lyran starseed. Another sign is if you are deeply self-reflective and connected with the divine. So if your connection with the divine comes very naturally to you, and despite having that kind of connection with the source, it does not affect your ego mind, and you remain humble, and you maintain that very self-reflective, self-aware way about you, that's a good indication that you could be a Lyran starseed. The last way is if you're really into the occult, the spiritual stuff, mysticism, that kind of thing, that's a sure indication that you are a starseed, but also a Lyran starseed. I remember right from the time I was young, reading about astrology, reading about spirits and what happens to us after we die, learning about tarot, learning about oracle cards. All of those things has always come so naturally to me. And when I woke up and I had my first awakening, especially when I learned about the Lyran Wars, I realized that this is because I'm a Lyran starseed. So let's get into the trauma clearing piece of this video. So like I said, since most of us have either had an incarnation on Lyra, or we're descendants of those who have had incarnations on Lyra, there's a good chance that everyone here has in their cellular memory this trauma. Just like I said, when I first heard about the Lyran Wars, I knew nothing about it, but I was sobbing because my cellular memory was triggered. So what I want to do here today is I want to open up sacred space and I want to channel light language to clear up that cellular trauma for every one of us present here today. So just take a few deep breaths and start to relax yourself. You can either sit up comfortably or you can lie down if you can do that. And you can listen to this activation as many times as you need. And it's just going to help you release this trauma on deeper and deeper levels each time you listen to it. So start by closing your eyes. Take a few deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Archangel Michael, I ask that you please place your blue cloak of protection around this transmission and this sacred space. My ancestors and the collective's ancestors, guides, higher selves, Lyran star family, Lyran higher selves, I ask you to please step into this sacred space and help me channel Lyran light language to clear any cellular trauma that my collective that's listening to this transmission today may have from the Lyran Wars. I ask that this cellular trauma be cleared once and for all here and now, so it may not be passed on to future generations. Lyran star family, we're here ready to release the trauma that you have gone through, so we may see peace, love, and joy, just like the old Lyran times for generations to come. I declare the sacred safe space open. Mama Kuan Yin, I ask that you please hold space for those who are purging this deeply traumatic cellular memory from their DNA today. And I ask that you replace any voids that may come as a result of releasing this trauma with pure, white, unconditional love and understanding. Thank you, so be it. La kalanko to kushtikia la la de kushigia te kuale la la kali kiluale la nigali kuali ya to kuleania dunya makari kiania nekiyani kita kuali alia no wania wari alia nikiyali te kiani ya walia to kuani ania nikishtikia wa te kiani alia mariania. Releasing any trauma from every cell in your body now. Nikialia walia katualia mani kitkuania tikishtikiania wari kishtikiania wa niani kia walia walia wa tikishtikiania wari kishtikiania wari kishtikiania wa. Filling your systems with love and compassion and complete neutrality towards any beings that may have hurt you. Liakalia dakalia tikiania nikiali kitakualia nia kuania katakashtikiania nikiania takualia kari kialia kalia kawa nikishtikiania. Replacing any cellular trauma with unconditional love and pure white source light and understanding. Nikialea lali watikishtikialia tikishtikiania nikialea watikishtikialia waliania waliania nikishtikiania walialia. balancing out your masculine, feminine templates. Nikialia, Guaria, Rikishtikiania, Nikialia, Washtikiania, Nia, 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 Nia. Nikishtikiania, Nia, Wushtikiania, Kuma, Ania, Tikishtikiania. Clearing any trauma from any loss that you may have faced when incarnated on Lyra. Lia, Rikia, Lia, Takuma, Lia, Nigia, Ria, Ushtikia, Nia, Nia, Umakaria, and filling each cell of your being with the understanding that it all had to happen for a reason in perfect divine order. Lia tikua nia lia ma ania ma uma anikia upania nia nikia upania la la washtikiania uma la nia 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 nia. Clearing any residual resentment, guilt, strife, longing for home, any other lower vibrational energies that are ready to leave your field now. Liamani kukniania wania makaria makaria nikiania muchitkiania pariania maharia nikiwaha mahania hahania ma haria. Kuan Yin, I ask that you please place every single soul listening to this transmission in a protective bubble of pure white source light and allow them to integrate this light language and continue releasing any cellular trauma from the Lyran Wars. Lyran Star Family, I thank you for being present here and helping us clear this trauma once and for all. And I ask that you continue to watch over every one of your Lyran children who are present here. Thank you, so be it. Continue to take a few deep breaths to integrate this language of the soul that was just spoken over you. And as you integrate this, any emotions that may come up, it's okay to release them. Tears are sacred waters, cleansing everything that they touch. So if you feel an emotional release coming on, allow it, sit with it, and don't avoid these feelings. Allow them to completely leave your system in any way that it wants to. When you are ready, take a few deep breaths and breathe your eyes open, and know that any remaining cellular trauma from the Lyran Wars now stand fully clear from your system, the systems of your ancestors, and the systems of your descendants. So be it. That was a very deep clearing that I felt on a soul level myself. Thank you all so much for being here. If you are called to explore your Lyran galactic heritage more, feel free to head over to my website and book a galactic Akashic reading or an energy healing session with me. I can help you explore any trauma you may be carrying from that incarnation, any gifts you may have from that incarnation, and even if you're just curious if you're Lyran, I can help you connect with that essence of yourself. Head over to my Etsy shop if you feel like receiving a fun reading from me, and leave me comments on how this made you feel, if it sparked any remembrance within you, and if you have any other helpful feedback or anything you want to say, any video ideas, any requests, please leave them in the comments below. I am so grateful for each and every person that shared this space with me today. This work that we're doing of clearing war trauma from our cellular memory is something that helps not only each one of us, but every single person that we come in contact with. Thank you for being the light in your life and everyone else's. I will see you in my next video. Namaste.